Alright guys, third video will be for the day because this will be uploaded tomorrow. We are here obviously joined by Ferrets once again. Say hello, Ferrets.
Hello.
So guys, what we want to do, we want to talk about the nav mesh because this is a major game changer for CIG. And I haven't seen a lot of other people talk about how important this is. Nav mesh basically allows you to go through and allows you to put AI players walking around, patrolling areas, and basically going through and making the game world more lifelike. Now, it's not just players like guards and stuff like that. This also is used for stuff like alien creatures as well. So, for example, the Stalker would obviously use nav mesh. Obviously, any alien fauna or fauna, any fauna anyway, that would obviously definitely have to use nav mesh. This is why we have these big empty worlds at the moment. Was because nav mesh was not put into the game until this point. So why are they designing nav mesh? Why can't they just use someone else's? So the way nav mesh used to work was they would go through and they would map the planet and they would put that into a file, and then the AI would be able to go through and basically run off that file, and it would determine where hills, bumps, where things are, stuff like that, where crashes and stuff are. Now, the problem with doing this is that those files got rather large, especially when you have these big, large worlds that Star Citizen has. Right? So to combat this, they had to go through and design a system that was dynamic. What this basically means is that if you imagine your player is in the center of the screen, they have to find a way for it to go through and to take notice of what's around it and say like just using numbers, a 5-meter radius. So while you're standing in the center of the screen, if you were to walk 2 meters in front and you were to come up to a down ship, it would then go through and take notice of that terrain difference, and then allow the game to navigate that area. Now, this is completely done by Dynamic. It is not something that is stored in a file. And this is where things like, for example, that shield technology. Fez, you have to remind me what's the name of that shield tech. The new shield tech that allowed it to warp around the shields around the size of the ship. Sign distance fielding.
Yes.
Yeah. This is where sign distance fielding would come into it. So, for example, the way I believe they've done it is that they're using SDF to basically go through and take notice of what's around that AI player within a certain 5-10 meter radius, whatever it may be. So this is something that CIG has had to develop themselves. This is not something that they've been able to just incorporate with their engine and stuff. It's something they've had to build. And this is why it's taken so long for us to go through, because obviously things like this nav mesh needs things like sign distance fielding. So we had to wait for that to get built before they could do the nav mesh, which allows us to put the AI into the game, blah, 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 blah. So it's a big game changer, because basically what this means now is that it means that when you go to a world, you can come across aliens or animals or creatures or AI guards or whatever it may be that will be in a certain area. And when they're developing the worlds, like for example with the derelicts, they can plonk down say 3 to 5 guards and basically put out like a general plot for like where they want to go. And then the AI players will go through and patrol. But if there's any sort of things that would alarm them, any sort of noise or they see someone or something like that, then obviously they'll deviate from that path, and then that's when nav mesh kicks in. But at the end of the day, this is a really, really big thing for CIG, and basically means that we're going to be able to get AI players, aliens, creatures, like even in caves and stuff like that, because that's where nav mesh will really come to its own. And the reason why it had to be dynamic is because if you, for example, if you left it at static and someone decided to put a plane there, for example, you would get the AI walking into the plane, and they'd just keep, like when you see them at the doors, when they just keep walking and they don't open the doors. Obviously, because you'd have to go through and update that map from the static every time there was something to change, and obviously they're making a dynamic universe. It could change literally within minutes. So that's why they had to go with the dynamic route, and the static route wouldn't work. Fez, do you have any questions regarding NavMesh? Any questions at all? Don't be afraid to ask anything that they might be confused about.
No, not really, but I would like to also point out, I don't know if you were gonna cover this part, but would they bring in the abandoned the colonial like outposts? They also said that I think like some or like not like all of these outposts will have NPC dropships are coming in and dropping off NPCs, and they will be roaming around these outposts with the new nav mesh too.
Yeah. So basically, that includes nav mesh. So that'll be a combination of two factors. So that'll be a combination of two factors. One will be them going through and using the new system that allows them to fly down, and that pathing that allows them to go through and to use the pathing to fly and land. And then obviously when the AI jump out, then that will be obviously going through and taking the nav mesh and allowing them to move. Now, I have found a video regarding nav mesh. It is them talking about it in around the verse. I haven't seen this yet, but it only goes for 3
During
minutes.
the Gamescom live
It's only about 3 minutes. So it's the
demo, Chris Roberts mentioned the engineering difficulties, like bringing a ship from space to hangar, transitioning from zone to zone, or having NPCs navigating environments that can move relative to each other. Regarding that last point, we want to show you how we improve the existing multi-layer navigation mesh system to match our requirements for bringing the Star Citizen universe alive.
In Gamescom, we can see several examples of the navigation mesh. So this is an example of an actual setup.
Now, keep in mind, guys, this is from 2017, this video, so things have changed since now. But I'll give you an idea of nav mesh and the basics.
Where we can see there are two main areas, like a landing pad with some navigation area and a constellation. So what we actually created is just a setup in which this character is just moving across 3 spots on the area. And there is another character inside here that will do something very similar. It will move inside 3 different block points or locations in this area, one here, one on this remote computer, and one here. And we'll play some animation. So now that we will jump in-game.
So this is static server meshing. Static nav meshing. This is the difference. Obviously, this is the static version that they used to have. The dynamic is when it will go through and it'll automatically map everything out without them having to outline the box.
So this is a simple setup I created before with the help of some of the designers, in which a spaceship, in our case the constellation we set up before, is spinning on top of a landing pad. Now we are inside, we can see an NPC moving across the 2 different locations. So this is the first one. He plays just an animation. He arrives to the spot, he plays an animation, and he goes to the computer board and he starts to just interact with it. We can look around, and what we can see is the landing pad, like just in front of us. And we can see another character that actually moves across 3 different locations, and he's trying to look at us later on, and he will wave. What you can see is like I can enable the navigation mesh, the backdraw, and there are 2 different logger grids here and 2 different zones. One is our spaceship, in which during the loading time, the object container will inform the AI to which local navigation mesh we are in, which local grid we need to connect to, and which zone we need to connect to. So we can basically allow, here you can see like navigation system idle. That means nothing is actually moving for the eye. So this is really optimized because we can know in advance, based on the physics environment in which we are in, that nothing is actually moving because the zone system takes care of that, and the eye can just perform their own action, that is pathfinding, and move the characters. As you can see, like I can exit the game and I can show you a bit how the setup is. So if I go around, now the navigation mesh will try to recheck the consistency of the different environments to verify that nothing has happened and nothing has changed. And here is like our constellation, and on the bottom we have the landing pad with its own navigation mesh. And if we just look at the backdraw, we can see here a volume. That is the volume setup in this specific map, but we cannot see any volume on the constellation because this belongs to its own object container and cannot be edited by any level designer that just used the spaceship. But to edit that one, you need exactly to modify the template of the spaceship. So each navigation mesh more or less highlights a specific environment in which the characters can be.
So that's static server meshing. And obviously if you start watching that, you can start to see the issues that arise, because obviously things like, well, hey, what happens if you change, like he says, if you change the inside of a ship, then obviously that's going to cause problems because, well, the ship is now different, so the AI now has to be updated. That's why they've gone to a dynamic system, which basically allows it to go through and to update itself on the fly, and basically go through and allows it to auto update without them having to say, well, hang on, no, this is different. Because, for example, someone might park a ship in the middle of the way, for example. So Noobifier has got a video out that is nav meshing stuff in 1 minute and 9 seconds. We'll also quickly watch this. I haven't seen this yet, but hopefully Noob will go through and do a better job explaining than I am, but let's see.
On the 23rd of June 2022, CIG released Inside Star Citizen titled Second Life. Here's what you...
So, let's see if... I'm trying to find the specific video. No, okay, no. So I was trying to find the specific video where they actually show nav motion inside Star Citizen, but I can't find it. But yeah, basically what happens is it'll go through and it'll take notice of things in a radius around the AI, and it will automatically update the AI to let it know when things are, so that it won't go bumping into stuff. I will put a link to Noobifier's video below. So obviously, guys, feel free to go and check that out as well. I'll put a link to the original video here with them talking about nav mesh. But do keep in mind, this is from 2017. So it's not exactly up to date. But yeah, but it gives you an idea of what static meshing is. All right, Fez, any questions, any comments, anything you want to add?
It's definitely going to bring in some fresh air into the game.
Oh, it's definitely going to make the world feel a lot more populated. And like I say, this is the start for us to be able to bring in things like space whales and space cows and the stalker. And like, you know, like for example, you go into caves and you might be able to come across spiders and stuff like that. So, you know, like I say, it's definitely going to be a game changer. And it's going to make the world seem a lot more populated. You know, like you might fly along and you might come across a herd of cows, space cows. Or, you know, you might be walking along through Microtech and all of a sudden you'll come across a space yeti or the stalker, for example. So it's definitely going to make the world feel more populated. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going, sorry.
No? I don't think
No,
so.
that was it. No, okay. But yeah, I presume you're excited for this because obviously we could go and hunt a stalker with a cutlass. Wasn't it you that said that you wanted to go and... Was it you or John that said you wanted to go and hunt a stalker with a cutlass?
I mean, that does sound fun.
It might have been John. We might have to do that one day. Might get all three of us to go. But yeah, obviously, guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. But yeah, NavMesh, one of the biggest things that's coming out from CIG this year. It really will impact on how the game is played in the future. And it's just going to make the worlds feel less barren than they already do. Because we're going to be able to get, you know, animals and space and AIs and stuff moving around. And it's going to start making the world feel like an actual open, dynamic event. And I'm all for that. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this video has been helpful. Please smack that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome and subscribe. Apart from that, guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section. Are you excited for NavMesh? Do you think it's going to be nothing? Obviously, nothing will change straight away. I'm not saying we're going to get stalkers or space cows tomorrow. But we are already seeing in 3.17.2 that they are doing the AI drop-offs and reinforcements already. And we also have NavMesh in there where it basically goes through and is allowing the AIs to move around so that they'll be able to patrol like derelicts and stuff like that. So we're already starting to see the progress that's been made. Obviously, server tick rate will affect how the AI operate. But with server meshing and stuff coming in, that should fix that problem, hopefully. So even if the AI are not very responsive at the moment, NavMesh will allow them to become responsive once that server tick rate drops down, and once that or increases actually. But once they get server meshing in, obviously then things like NavMesh that have already been incorporated will then really start to show their own. Apart from that, guys, have a great night. Enjoy yourself, everybody. Ferretz's details are in the description below. He does have a YouTube and Twitch. Please feel free to go and follow them. And apart from that, guys, we'll see you in the next demonetized video from YouTube. Have a great night and enjoy.